Right. Good evening and welcome, everybody. Welcome to this council meeting of Tuesday, the 19th of September, 2023. I should inform you that this meeting is being live streamed and is available to view on YouTube. As well as welcoming new councillors, I'd like to welcome Reverend Little, the officers and our visitors at the rear of the room. You're all very welcome, as are our YouTube viewers. Right, let's kick off. Agenda item 1, apologies. I've received apologies from councillors Tina Clements, Paul Turner, Jason Jones, Ben Price, Chris Bain and Marie Bailey. Do we have any other apologies?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can I offer apologies for Councillor John Wade? He's had some pretty devastating news at home today.
Oh. Thank you. I'm so sorry that I hope that it's not too horrible, but our thoughts go with Councillor Wade. Right, agenda item number 2 is to receive the minutes of the following meetings. If I can sign these off, that would be very fortuitous. 23rd of May. I'm going to have to do this. I can't do it en masse, I'm afraid, because not all councillors would have been to all meetings, so I'm going to have to do them individually. So I need a mover. That's
happy to move, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Cook and TJ, Councillor J to second. All those in favour? Anyone against? Any abstentions? Right. Now we come to the meeting of the 26th of June. Can I have a mover? Councillor J. And a seconder? Councillor Woodrup. All those in favour? Anyone against? Any abstentions? Thank you very much. Right. The meeting of the 18th of July. Could someone move it? Councillor Wood. And a seconder. Thank you, Councillor J. And a vote of all those in favour? All those against? Any abstentions? Thank you. And finally, the meeting of the 21st of August 2023.
Am I able to ask a question?
Yes.
Thank you. Going through the minutes, that was such an important meeting. I just found the minutes quite thin on it. I think there perhaps could have been a bit more narrative for what we were all talking about and the conclusions that we came to. Just an observation.
Okay. We've noted that. Thank you very much. Right. Can I have a mover? Councillor Smith. Please forgive me. I've got a shocking. Apart from my shocking eyesight, the only thing worse than that is my brain, which is a problem. But thank you, Councillor Smith, and a seconder. Councillor Daniels, thank you very much. All those in favour? Anyone against? Any abstentions? Thank you. Right. Okay, then we move on to agenda item number 3, which is declaration of interests. Councillor Kingston.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In relation to agenda item number 6, the petition, I'd just like to declare an interest as the original petitioner, and I'll be presenting the petition this evening.
Thank you, Councillor Kingston. Anyone else? No. Okay. Right. Agenda item number 4, to receive announcements from, firstly, the Mayor. Right. I've just got 2 things that I want to flag up. One concerns a proposal which I'm intending to take forward if I can. This is to stage in either March or April, a Tamworth Festival of Youth under the title Young Tamworth. This is a proposal to stage a celebration of youth, and the aim is to provide Tamworth school and college students, youth groups, with an outlet for artistic and sporting endeavour. A key objective would be to foster civic pride, something that I'm particularly desperately want to do during my term of office, and make awareness of Tamworth's history and culture, and make all of these more accessible to young people. Tamworth Borough Council would be a key partner in organising the festival, along with many voluntary organisations and groups, which I will hopefully be able to put together, and with the aim of forging closer links between young people and the town in which they live. The initial idea is for a week-long series of events in March or April, and various components would include an original writing competition, all about Tamworth. All of these things would be about Tamworth. A photography competition, the good, the bad, and the ugly, asking students to provide 3 pictures that they think aptly reflects the town in which they live. A painting competition, a film-making competition, a chess competition perhaps, a Young Tamworth quiz competition. If we can do it, a swimming competition, 5-a-side football competition, and athletics competition. These would all be obviously require a lot of organisation, if I can get it all together. A youth marathon, perhaps, we could include in it, along with a music competition. And the other thing I'm looking at is to try and put on a concert featuring our young people in whatever particular endeavour they're going forward in, so that we can stage and show the people of Tamworth the positive aspects of our brilliant, brilliant young people, of which we have so many in this town. And if I come across amongst you at some point asking for help, advice, and anything else that I can think of that would make this particular project come to fruition, I will be doing so. So I want to make you all aware of that's what I will be doing in the next few months. So thank you very much for that. The only other thing I want to tell you is that I'm also looking to stage a mayoral concert, and the initial date I've got is Saturday, February the 10th. This will be held at the Assembly Rooms with the sole proviso of raising funds for the Mayor's appeal. I hope to make it a really good show that will have wide appeal and hopefully will attract you all to come along to it. So that's Saturday, February the 10th. Right, I've taken up enough time. I will now pass you over to, in the absence of the leader of the council, I will pass you on to the deputy leader. Prior to mentioning this, actually, could I just mention that we are in pre-election period, so please bear this in mind when you're speaking. I'm sure you all know this and appreciate this, but please bear this in mind. Right, I'll now hand you over to the deputy leader, Councillor Jay. Have you any announcements?
No, thank you. No particular announcement. We've got plenty of questions where things are going to get covered, so we'll cover it later.
Thank you. Right, members of the Cabinet, do you have any questions? Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Right. I'd like to take a moment to provide a brief update regarding to the leaseholder matter discussed during the extraordinary council meeting on August 21st. Currently, we're in the process of initiating a tender for an external independent consultancy to assist us in conducting a comprehensive strategic review. We are finalising a scope of work which will be presented to the Cabinet Committee with all the pertinent details. I want to emphasise that I have requested that the scope of this independent consultancy remains flexible to accommodate any additional issues that may arise during the course of the strategic review and to allow for the input of stakeholders, including elected members. I understand that unforeseen matters may come up and we want to be prepared to address them. In the coming weeks, I will reach out to the chairs of the Scrutiny Committees to invite members to join a working group, as previously outlined during the last extraordinary council meeting. My next update and report will be presented during the Cabinet Committee meeting scheduled for October the 28th. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Any other member of the Cabinet wish to speak? Right. Okay, the Chief Executive. No announcements. Thank you very much. Right, we're now going on to agenda item 5, which is question time. We have 4 questions from members of the public. And the first one is from Mr. Simon Goodall of Tamworth, who will ask the portfolio holder for entertainment and leisure, Councillor Andrew Cooper, the following question. Mr. Goodall.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Our region has a rich canal heritage. Tamworth is boundaried and bisected by the Coventry Canal, with the Fazeley Canal just a stone's throw away, as you all know. Canals are a growing part of the leisure sector, both on and off water, and provide important safe transport links, as well as important ecological benefits contributing to the Council's green agenda. Can the portfolio holder commit the Council to supporting the Canal and River Trust in any way possible to provide support in light of possible future cuts to the grants provided by government? Thank you.
Councillor Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much. Yeah, so thank you for your question. Thank you for bringing it to full council. Tamworth is very lucky to have a canal network, as you quite rightly put out. It does provide various services that help with people's mental health, transportation still, lovely sort of countryside walks, and Tamworth really does benefit from a fantastic canal network that I do use quite a lot to walk the dog. The Borough Council's local plan provides a supportive policy framework which assists in unlocking the potential contribution and value of waterways to communities and individuals in Tamworth. So we have policy in 3 that ensure quality and accessibility of the canal and river corridors will be supported, provided ecological value is not compromised. So Canal and Rivers Trust is a statutory consultancy in the development and management process. They recently appointed on when they are consulted by local planning authorities. As a result of new planning development in Tamworth adjacent to the canal network, the planning team have secured a lovely £443,000 on behalf of the Canal and Rivers Trust, courtesy of the Dunstall Lane development site to improve 1.1 kilometres of canal towpaths. So absolutely, we are already doing quite a bit to support canals, and and I look to your supplementary should there be one. Thank you.
Mr. Goodall, do you indeed have a supplementary question?
I do, Mr. Mayor, thank you. In light of your answer, and thank you, Andy, for your answer, could you commit to tabling a motion to Council that the Leader of the Council write to the appropriate Minister encouraging existing funding to be maintained based on those important benefits to our town? Thank you.
Councillor Cooper.
Yeah, thank you, Scott. I think it's a good supplementary, and I would be supportive of that, to be honest. I think we do need to do that. We need to raise the local issue. We have a lot of canals that provide a lot of services, and I'd be happy to support that motion, and I would look to my colleagues for a second.
Thank you, Councillor. Right, Mr. Goodall, you're in position for your second question, and you want to address this to the Leader of the Council, but unfortunately our leader is, or the leader is not here, so it will be answered by
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, we're moving a motion for the council to. No, we're not. We can't do that. Okay, no worries.
No. Right, sorry.
Just for clarity, if I may, Mayor, can't move a motion without notice for that. I think probably the correct method would be to bring it to the next full council meeting as a motion with notice, going through the constitutional route, which is the 5 members, I think, from memory, signing up to supporting the motion. And then we'll come to that meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Right, so this is a question that's addressed to Deputy Leader Councillor Jay, and it's again from Mr. Simon Goodall.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The school uniform swap store that was led by Councillor Clements was clearly so helpful for many families in the time of tighter finances. Does the leader or deputy leader believe a motion should be brought to council to write to all local schools encouraging these ridiculous uniform policies of having to have logo branded clothing articles that causes undue strain on Tamworth families to be relaxed? Thank you.
Councillor Jay.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the question. You're quite right. Councillor Clements and all of the volunteers that helped did an amazing job. It was definitely a godsend to the families that used it. I know when I was a kid it would have been a godsend, so absolutely fully support and commend them for that. Sometimes when we're in here we often can say, you know, that's not in our remit as a councillor, which, you know, this kind of thing isn't. However, in our positions I think it's important to lobby and influence wherever we can, so I would support that in getting something sent in. Yeah, absolutely.
Mr. Goodall, do you have a supplementary?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, just following on from that, does the Deputy Leader agree that education is far more important than what a student wears?
Councillor Jay.
Yes, of course. I know schools have their policies for other reasons, you know, for things like monitoring skirt length and that kind of thing, but absolutely, education is, of course, more important. So I believe the process here, if I'm right, is we need to do the same as the last one. If we're going to put a motion, we need 5 members to sign up for the next meeting. I'm happy to support that and get that through.
Thank you, Councillor Jay. Right, questions number 3 and 4 have both been submitted by Mr. Dennis Powick of Tamworth, who is unfortunately unable to attend this evening. He apologises and has asked for a written response, which of course we will facilitate. Right, we now come to questions from members of the council. We have 11 questions, the first one of which is from Councillor Jeremy Oates, who unfortunately doesn't appear to be here this evening. So his question was addressed to the leader, but on his behalf I wonder if Councillor Jay will respond with a written response.
Yeah, I can have a written response, or we can read it out tonight. Is, you know, it's an important question. Either way, I'm happy.
Would you like to deal with it tonight?
Yeah, no.
Okay.
There's any harm in doing so.
Well, I'll read out the question on his behalf then. Following the government that an additional 104 school buildings, bringing them to total to 154, are being forced to close as they are constructed of aerated concrete known as RAAC, will the leader of the council take immediate action and proceed with the works planned for Middle Entry to remove the structures containing this material, which were identified at the start of the year, including sourcing the funding required to remove this danger from the town centre streets without any more delay? Councillor Jane.
Thank you. So obviously this has been on everybody's lips about RAAC, as it's called, so I think it's an important question to address. Reinforced autoclaved aerated concrete RAAC has been identified in the Middle Entry Shopping Centre, which is in the ownership of the peer group, not Tamworth Borough Council. The landowners are currently investigating the extent and condition of the RAAC, and the report will be available by the end of September. There is currently no legislation or guidance that requires public sector organisations to mitigate the issues of RAAC in buildings which are in private ownership. So the responsibility for Middle Entry therefore rests with the peer group.
Thank you, Councillor. Right, moving on to question number 2, which is from Councillor Robert Pritchard, who will ask the portfolio holder for Environment, Health and Community Partnerships, Councillor Martin Summers, the following question. Councillor Pritchard.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In the current council by-election, the opposition are campaigning to reopen Tamworth Police Station. Could the portfolio holder please confirm that Tamworth Police Station did not close, it merely moved to a new location on Marlborough Way?
Councillor Summers.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Pritchard, for your question. So, I'm aware of misinformation circulating that alleges Tamworth does not have a police station, and in some cases, somehow that is deemed the fault of the council. As misinformation is a pet hate of mine, as everybody will know, I'm more than happy to confirm that the police station is indeed located on Marlborough Way in Tamworth. I know this because it says police station on the front of it. I've been in it, and believe it or not, there are police officers within it, and police cars outside of it. Everything which would suggest that there is indeed a police station in Tamworth. The police station houses the neighbourhood policing team, and there is a 24/7 response team at the station. The public can use the intercom call button as necessary, the same as the old police station, and the police also meet the public for managed appointments. The station fire and rescue manager and the chief inspector would be perfectly happy to arrange another cross-party visit at a convenient time, as they did in June this year. The town centre station was unfit for purpose, and anyone who went in there would attest to that. The front desk at that station had been closed for some time prior to the police station's move. I'm reasonably sure if someone were to present outside of the police station in its new location in an emergency situation, that they would not be ignored and could use the call button on the front of the building. I would imagine it is much more efficient for the police to have initial reports by phone or online. I can't speak for the police, but from what I understand, they're quite happy with where they are. It is more than suitable for their needs and strategically placed to get to all parts of Tamworth quickly. Being in the centre of the road network, it makes it very convenient for them to just hop on and get to anywhere quite quickly, quicker probably than they could where they were, in the centre of town. I would call upon anyone spreading the falsehood that we have no police station in Tamworth to cease doing so, as it's both unfathomable as to why this would be asserted as well as harmful. Thanks, Councillor Pritchard. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Pritchard, do you have a supplementary?
No, Mr. Mayor, just to thank Martin Summers for clearing up that confusion.
Thank you. Right. Question number 3, question to the council number 3, is it's from Councillor Gareth Coates, who will ask the portfolio holder for environment or environmental health and community partnerships, Councillor Martin Summers, the following question. Councillor Coates.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Last year, Tamworth Council, along with 41 other councils, did not issue one fixed penalty notice for fly tipping. There were 1,453 incidents and 1,120 enforcement actions in Tamworth. Not one of these led to a fixed penalty notice. Could the council please explain why not one was issued, and how are they looking at dealing with this in the future? Thank you very much.
Councillor Summers.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Coates. I'm not going to say Oates then. For your question. So there's a few facts and figures in here, and I'll try and keep my teeth in place while I'm reading them out. The figures currently reported relate to 1,453 cases of fly tipping reported by the public, with some duplications, from April 2021 to March 2022, whereby 1,101 cases were investigated by the enforcement or street scene teams. The remaining cases were collected by street scene, but there was no opportunity for investigation, as the item was an object such as a table or chair, for example, with no direct or likely source to an individual or property. Those items were disposed of appropriately. 1,101 sites were visited for inspection, with none holding significant evidence that was immediately available to enforce. A small amount of cases were reported by persons who named an offender, and these were delivered a statement in which to complete so that evidence could be used. Regrettably, in that period, no signed statements were received to progress to prosecution. And that is regrettable. If people have a problem with fly tipping and they know who's done it, they should make a stand and do something about it. Right, where was I? Since the end of the COVID era, inspections are now more thorough as health and safety allows for the teams to delve deeper into bags of waste or fly-tipped items. As a local authority, we will take appropriate and proportionate action where absolute evidence allows. The council have currently been awarded £26,000 through a fly tipping grant from DEFRA, and we've taken steps to independently gather evidence by purchasing 6 overt deployable cameras that will be installed at fly tipping hotspots over the next couple of weeks. The camera will record fly tipping and capture evidence of the offender directly. It is envisaged that this evidence may be suitable to pursue fixed penalty notices going forward to reduce and deter fly tipping locally. These cameras can be easily removed and replaced and will be followed up with significant signage, media campaigns and local advertising. We would encourage the public to continue to report issues. To date, in 2023, there's been one successful £400 fixed penalty issued. Considering the government's recent ASB action plan, the environmental crime policy will also be reviewed with proposals for updated penalty charges to further deter fly tippers. But really, just stop dumping your rubbish where it shouldn't be.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Coates, do you have a supplementary?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Obviously, when people get fined, then that money's going to go to the council. Is it possible that any of that money, because I'm guessing it's not in the budget, but you can correct me on that, is it possible for any of the litter picking groups to have access to that for equipment, black bags, because the amount of groups, and I'm not just saying it just for me, but there are other councils that remember these groups, you know, they fund themselves. I didn't know if the council with this fine money could look at donating some to them for their equipment. Thank you.
Councillor Summers.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's probably not necessary to kind of ring fence the money that comes in for the fines, because we've got quite a robust grant scheme as it goes, and everybody's welcome, including litter pickers, to apply to it. So, and hopefully at some point next year, us as councillors will have more than the £400 odd that we've currently got to be able to give to groups like that. So, so hopefully we can carry on funding them as needed for as many bags as they want. I mean, it's a great opportunity to thank our litter pickers. They are the unsung heroes of the town. They're absolutely fantastic going out there, looking at the Facebook groups, seeing them putting their bags full of rubbish, which is, you know, both upsetting and pleasing in one photograph. You know, they shouldn't have to do it. They're community-spirited people, fantastic people, and I really appreciate what they do for this town. Thank you for your question.
Thank you, Councillor. Question number 4, question to the Council. It's again from Councillor Coates, who will ask the portfolio holder for entertainment and leisure, Councillor Andrew Cooper, the following question. Councillor Coates.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There's a piece of land that runs from 112 Cumberford Road to number 124. A few years ago, the trees were removed for health and safety reasons because they were conker trees and the conkers were falling in the road, and it's quite a busy road, so kids were running into the road to get the conkers. So they're obviously removed, which the residents understood. When they were removed, the workers said there'll be new trees planted there. It's been a number of years, and I'm just wondering if there's any updates on when the trees are likely to be planted. Thank you.
Councillor Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the area ground you are referring to is surrounded on both sides by county council highways. We have looked at our numerous records. We understand that the ground actually does belong to the borough council. However, we haven't got anything in our records to suggest that we remove such conker trees. So therefore, we're assuming that it's the county council that's undertaken that operation for safety reasons. We will go back to the county council to understand what their promises were in light of were there something in place to plant other trees to replace a horse chestnut tree, or is it that the trees themselves by the road prevent a hazard? Thank you.
Councillor Coates, do you have a supplementary? No. Thank you. Question to the Council number 5. This is Councillor Robert Pritchard will ask the Leader of the Council, or the Deputy Leader in this case, the following question. Councillor Pritchard.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. When the Arkle Farm development, now called Arkle Green, was at a planning stage, I campaigned against it and argued how North Tamworth cannot sustain further development. This authority took the matter to the planning inspector and we secured a partial victory with a grampian agreement and a monitor and manage approach to the development. I'm shocked to see that an application has been made to Lichfield District Council to allow the developer to change or remove the vital monitor and manage condition. Can the Deputy Leader of the Council please confirm what the authority is doing to ensure that this vital planning protection is not removed?
Councillor Jay.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Thanks for the question. As you'll be aware, outline consent for the Arkle Farm proposal was granted by the Secretary of State in June 2018 following a public inquiry. Representatives of the Council attended the inquiry and put forward a case against the proposal on the grounds that it would have an unacceptable impact on infrastructure within Tamworth. Ultimately, the proposal was granted consent subject to a number of conditions, including in relation to the monitor and manage approach that you mentioned. This approach requires the development to cease at a number of set points and for the developer to demonstrate that there is no unacceptable impact on the highways network, or to implement measures to mitigate any impacts before the development can continue. An application has been submitted by the developer to Lichfield District Council to vary this condition and change the agreed monitor and manage approach. Officers from this council's planning team will be reviewing the details of the application and submitting a consultation response which will make it clear that this council objects to any proposal that would weaken the measures put in place to help protect Tamworth's highway network. Unfortunately, however, in this instance, the power to determine the application rests with Lichfield District Council and not Tamworth Borough Council. So the council's ability to directly influence the proposal is limited to an objection only, but object we will definitely.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Pritchard, do you have a supplementary?
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and thank you very much for the answer. Whilst I understand the application is with Lichfield District Council, would the Deputy Leader agree that the authority has a responsibility to offer strong community leadership on this important issue and ensure that it is robustly representing the community's views to the planning authority, as well as fighting to protect our infrastructure in the north of Tamworth?
Councillor Jay.
Thank you. Yep, totally agree with that. As we know, yourself and some others in the room did a lot of campaigning on this before, and we're fully behind you, and we are fully supportive of objecting again. Yep.
Thank you, Councillor. Right, questions from members of the Council. This is number 6, and Councillor Lee Wood will ask the Leader of the Council, in this case the Deputy, the following question. Councillor Wood.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Following on from a recent Freedom of Information request revealing that rack has been found in the buildings linked to the Future High Street Fund project, has the Council investigated the possibility of adjacent buildings having the same material?
Yeah, thank
Councillor
you.
Jay.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the question. Similar to one earlier, however, from slightly different angles, so we can give a bit more information. Obviously, the issue of rack has indeed occupied a considerable amount of time over recent weeks in the media, and following the announcement that a number of schools would be forced to close. I can confirm, as mentioned earlier, that rack is present in the former Christopher's Jewellers, which is now vacated as part of the Future High Streets Fund programme. This is the only building within the programme owned by the Borough Council in which rack is confirmed as present. Okay? Rack removal from this unit will form part of the programme, and you'll have seen hoarding has been erected around the site as part of safety measures associated with the project anyway. I can also confirm that rack is present in the adjacent middle entry buildings as mentioned earlier, and surveying has been undertaken by this council on the 2 bridge links which bookend either end of the middle entry passage. The removal of the bridge links and roof form part of the Future High Street Fund works to the middle entry buildings. However, as I mentioned earlier, Peer Group, the owner of middle entry, have been undertaking rack surveys on middle entry estate, and the contents of which will be shared in the coming weeks in September.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Wood, do you have a supplementary? Thank you. Question number 7. This comes from Councillor Danny Cook, who will ask the Leader of the Council, in this case the Deputy Leader, the following question. Councillor Cook.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Can the Deputy Leader of the Council confirm he believes there is still a point operating scrutiny committees at Tamworth Borough Council? Does the controlling group still take them seriously? Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Jay.
Well, it's very easy. Yes, we do. But I know now, I've been in this 5 years, this is teed up for something else. So let's hear the supplementary. But yes, of course we do.
Councillor Cook, do you have a supplementary? Thank you very much. Right, moving swiftly on. We have another question, and this is number 8. And Councillor Cook will ask the Deputy Leader of the Council and Portfolio Holder for Operations and Finance, Councillor Thomas Jay, the following question. Councillor Cook.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Given recent news that Birmingham City Council has served a Section 114 notice and that Stoke are not far behind, noting as well that Woking and Thurrock are in the same dire place, does the Deputy Leader believe that the process of setting the 24-25 MTFS is business as usual, i.e. trim bits there, remove bits there, or is it time for a much more radical approach to secure our long-term financial future? Thank you.
Councillor Jay.
Thank you very much. At its meeting on the 8th of August 2023, your Corporate Scrutiny Committee that you chair received the Q1 corporate performance report, including the updated MTFS forecasts as at 30th of June. Updates to the MTFS are considered by the Corporate Management Team, Corporate Scrutiny Committee and Cabinet on a quarterly basis, as you know, based on the financial information contained within the MTFS approved by this Council in February each year, following the detailed discussions held and information reported during the budget process, but informed by and in light of any developing financial issues as they arise during the year. As a result of the updated forecast at Q1, July 2023, the forecast projections now identify general fund balances of 3.7 million by 2025-26 compared to 1.1 million, so an improvement. A shortfall of 0.7 million by 2026-27 compared to a previous forecast shortfall of 4.1 million. So again, very much improved. Under the best case scenario, general fund balances are forecast at 4.3 million in positive by 2025. And under the worst case scenario, general fund balances are forecast £300,000 positive by 2025-2026. Okay, so again, improved. There remains a high degree of uncertainty arising from the most significant changes in local government funding for a generation, arising from the Fair Funding Review, review of the Business Rates Retention Scheme, reset of the Business Rates Baseline, and the ongoing uncertainty over the funding for the New Homes Bonus Scheme. While we're aware of these forthcoming changes, little to no information is available on the potential impact for individual councils' finances. We will therefore need to consider the approach to forecasting and planning for these uncertainties, balancing the risk to the MTFS against the need for savings and potential service reductions. As yourself and all members will be aware, savings are usually considered annually as part of the budget process, and managers have again been asked to identify further areas for potential savings and growth opportunities for consideration by members as part of the budget process. With the ongoing uncertainty around the Fair Funding Review and business rates reset, it does make it difficult to plan in the longer term, which is what we've experienced for the past 10 years, as the review has been deferred numerous times, and now is a question of rather when it could happen. A further consideration is the potential scale and scope of any government funding reductions, which is still currently unknown. So there needs to be a balance, obviously, between hoping for the best and obviously planning for the worst, which would include consideration of cost efficiencies, increased income, and ultimately service reductions. Therefore, it's suggested that the focus be on achieving a balanced 3-year MTFS. pending further clarification regarding the planned reforms to local government finance. However, to enhance the MTFS process and in recognition of the ongoing financial risks for the organisation, we have already kicked off work on a new sustainability strategy, which will develop to provide a long-term approach to sustainability planning, including management of financial risk, enhancing the effectiveness of service delivery, and maximising commercial opportunities across the organisation. So that's the piece you mentioned there, looking ahead. With regard to the housing revenue account, a 5-year MTFS was approved by the Council, including significant investment in meeting future housing needs to sustain the HRA in longer term. As a result of the updated forecast at Q1 July 2023, the forecast projections now identify HRA balances of £1.5 million by 2025 compared to 2.8 million, so a reduction. Under the best case, HRA balances are forecast at £3.5 million by 2025 and worst case 1.5 million. However, there are anticipated cost pressures for the HRA identified during the ongoing work in updating the 30-year HRA business plan. Previous indications from the modelling are a potential shortfall over 30 years of 42 million, plus a significant and unsustainable increase in HRA debt levels arising from the capital programme pressures. We're currently working on the updated projections and scenarios within the modelling, which will then inform the future strategy and potential options for consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Cook, do you have a supplementary? Thank you. Right, on to question number 9. This is a question from Councillor Craig Adams, who will ask the portfolio holder for housing and planning, Councillor Sam Smith, the following question. Councillor Adams.
How long on average does it take for a council house that had a problem to be fully resolved, and what the average in Belgrade Ward?
Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for your question, Councillor Adams. If we assume that the problem here is defined as a repair, then it will fall into one of 3 categories based on the nature of the repair. This is set out in the repairs policy, which can be found on the Tamworth Borough Council's website. But if we unpack it, we've got emergency repairs. The target completion time for these is 1 day. In the 2022-23 year, 96% were completed on time, averaging at 1.04 days. Urgent repairs, the target completion time for these is 5 days. In 2022-23 year, 89% were completed on average, completed on time, 89%, average time 6.37 days. Routine repairs, the target completion time for these is 26 days, and in the year 2022-23, 91% were completed on average, on time, average time 22.8 days, and the average across all jobs was 13.9 days. Unfortunately, this data is not available by ward, as it is not provided within the current Orchard housing management system. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Craig, do you have a supplementary?
Yes, thank you. Would it be possible in the future so we can actually break these down into wards and record it wise, so we can get more statistics on like how different wards are performing?
You know what, I was thinking the same thing actually. I mean, obviously at the moment we're limited by this Orchard housing system, but why not? Why can't we break it down by ward? So I'll go back and see if we can get some answers for that. I mean, maybe it has to be something that we put towards, or we start off within the corporate scrutiny committee, potentially. But yeah, I mean, hopefully we can overcome these limitations, because I think that specific data by ward is actually quite vital when it comes to this subject matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Question number 10. This is from Councillor Carol Dean, who will ask the portfolio holder for Environmental Health and Community Partnerships, Councillor Martin Summers, the following question.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Oh,
Mr Mayor, sorry to interrupt, but
I
it's not marked for
beg your
myself.
pardon. I beg your pardon, Carol. I've got some tough information
I don't mind
here.
who answers.
It's Councillor Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can the portfolio holder please confirm to me what responsibility the Borough Council has with regard to local green spaces, i.e. general maintenance around our estates with paths, roads, gullies and drains, trees and hedgerows? Can he explain the dividing line between the county and borough responsibility? And also let me know what responsibilities are undertaken by Street Scene. Thank you.
Councillor Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will warn you, I have a very, very detailed response that has been fantastically knocked up by the officers, and I want to go on record to say that it's a lot of detail in this answer. However, you'll be pleased to hear that I won't go through all of the details. They have put together an answer, to be fair to them, that covers every single scenario, situation, asset and subject, because they are great like that. What I will say is the dividing line between county and borough responsibilities, in its most simplistic terms, is that Staffordshire County Council is the highway authority, so they are responsible for all the assets associated with the highway, including cycleways, which are classed as highways. This includes lighting, highway drains, gullies, infrastructure, bridges, although some bridges do belong to other agencies such as Network Rail, who I also work for in the day. There are anomalies to this rule. For example, if Staffordshire County Council has not adopted the highway, obviously it will not fall to Staffordshire County Council. Footpaths that belong to Staffordshire County Council tend to be any footpath that doesn't lead directly to one singular house. It is a link footway between estates and main roads, runs alongside a main road, a multi-use footway that leads to another site. The County Council employ inspectors to audit the condition of their assets, and TBC also pay for this service for their inspectors to inspect TBC assets too. Through the reverse agency agreement, we also maintain Staffs County grass verges through this too. So there are various agreements, situations, responsibilities on various different asset types. There are also various anomalies to those asset types as well. So it is not the simplest question that one might expect to be answered. However, I hope that I've tried to do that as best I can. If you want a more detailed response, I can absolutely send you a written response with covering every sort of situation, scenario and problem that we have in Tamworth. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cooper. Would you like a supplementary?
Yes, please. Not quite sure it's a question, but this is a question. Is it possible to have a copy of that comprehensive answer that the officers have put together? Yeah, I don't think that's clarified much at all, really, without seeing what they've put through. And as you'll know from previous comments I've made in several different areas, we're being inundated with complaints from people about the state of our forgotten estates. So what I was looking for here was to find out who exactly we can go to start getting something done for the residents of Tamworth. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dean. Councillor Cooper?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would strongly suggest that if you are receiving many complaints about various different assets, that in the first instance you take them to Street Scene through via myself. if you do have issues with that, if they have been reported, they've got to be reported via the various processes that the council already have in place, such as inboxes to send your queries to and to chase it. If you have no luck with that, absolutely bring those individual cases to me. I see a hell of a lot on social media with regards to certain different parts of the borough that people complain about, and 9 times out of 10, when I personally chase them up myself, I actually find that they don't belong to Tamworth Borough Council, and that it is somebody else's responsibility. Now, yes, absolutely, I would absolutely love to see a service where we cut every single grass verge asset and everything is all properly trimmed and proper, but we do not have a magic money tree growing in the castle grounds that we can pluck from to pay for our services. And we're not going to be the council that run it like that. What I will say is civic pride does not just extend to the fantastic mayoral events that are put on February the 10th. Please get yourself down there. It is also about taking civic pride in your surrounding areas. If there are major issues with our surrounding areas, please raise them to the various processes that are put in place. Or take a bit of civic pride, get out there and tidy a few bits and bobs up. But we do have a lot of good processes in place. I genuinely do think that street scene come in for a bad rep with regards to the fantastic work that they do on a daily basis. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cooper. Right, okay, we come to the last of the questions for members of the council, number 11, and this is from Councillor Rosie Claymore, who will ask the portfolio holder for town centre and commercial property, Councillor Paul Thompson, the following question.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had the pleasure of visiting the Wheel of Tamworth event over the weekend of the 9th and 10th of September. A fantastic event showcasing our town and what we have to offer. You can imagine how extremely concerned and disappointed I was to see 3 of the public toilets were out of order. Can you explain why these facilities were out of service, when it was known they would be out of order, and why appropriate measures were not taken to ensure the facilities were in working order for such an important event? Thank you.
Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I think we should congratulate our events team on the fantastic events that they do put on in Tamworth. Unfortunately, these toilets were taken out of use pending the completion of various repairs which were beyond our control. Closures weren't planned and the repairs were completed as quickly as possible, with the toilets being brought back into use as soon as the repairs had been completed. What I can add is that in terms of the event, an additional 8 toilets were provided, as well as 1 toilet dedicated to caterers only and 1 toilet for backstage. I can't actually tell you when they first went out. I haven't got that information at this moment in time. Okay.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Claymore, do you have a supplementary?
Yes, thank you. Would it be possible for you to get that information and send it as a written response, please?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you, everyone. That concludes the questions from members of the public and from members of the council. Which brings us on to agenda item number 6, which is a petition presented by Councillor Richard Kingston, who wishes to see a fully functional council front desk service returned to Tamworth Town Centre. Councillor Kingston, you have 5 minutes to present your petition.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And this petition I present on behalf of countless Tamworth residents, from those that have not only signed this petition, those that have commented on social media, those that have stopped me in the street, and on behalf of the silent majority who we know are out there and support this sort of thing. These people range from young people who find themselves in need of advice, young families with issues from housing repairs, housing applications to social care, visitors to our town looking for advice, and the elderly in need of support and care, along with countless others. Earlier this year, I asked the then leader of the council if he would look into this. All he did was reel off a dismissive long list of items the council had put in place since COVID, without actually answering the question. I went back and he still gave me the same list. I think we all have to agree that Marmion House, though, is a massive millstone around the neck of this council. It has to go, and I'm not looking, and neither are the people of Tamworth looking, to see Marmion House return to, as the civic base of this council. COVID changed the world. It showed us a way to work from home, remotely. But is that better? For our workforce, maybe. For our residents, although for our residents, they don't think so. To say the alternative provision put in place they say the alternative provision put in place is a joke. The Assembly Rooms is a magnificent asset. It is a great entertainment venue, but a civic centre it is not. I bet I could line up 1,000 random Tamworth residents who've had cause to try and contact Tamworth Borough Council since 2020 outside this town hall, bring them in, and most would say that their experience was absolutely awful. There's nowhere to go. Emails, they claim, are not responded to. Phones ring out. There's a lack of privacy when they do go to the Assembly Rooms, and there's a feeling of not being listened to. No amount of telesurveys and so forth will reveal the extent of the public's feeling about this. Now, in this new era for our council, we need to right the wrongs of the past. We need to restore public confidence. We need our council to be visible. The first of the drop-ins that was held downstairs a few weeks ago proved the argument that we need a proper front desk. In the past, one of the countless residents I've been supporting couldn't get anything done about their residential repairs. They couldn't get any response from phoning or email. They turned up here and spoke to officers face to face, and within 10 minutes, a solution was found and the problem was resolved. But the issue with these drop-ins is the frequency and the timing. 10 till 2 is no good for our working residents. I'd also argue that by returning to a front desk service would result in a general improvement in the delivery of council services. With officers actually working in the town, they'll be able to witness the issues for themselves, on breaks and lunch breaks and so forth. Now, there'll be councillors and cabinet members who will argue that we have never had it so good when it comes to accessing services and supporting the vulnerable. I say they're not listening to the public. They're a classic example of the tail wagging the dog. Or, to put it another way, they're the epitome of the great Oozlem bird that featured in Carry On Up the Jungle. In so much as the Oozlem bird, when challenged, stuck its head up its own, perception is everything. We need to be better. On behalf of the residents of Tamworth, for God's sake, let's use one of the countless empty shops, council-owned or not, to restore a proper, fully manned council front desk to the town centre. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Kingston. Right, we're now going to open up for debate. Councillor Jay, you wish to respond?
Yes, thanks very much.
Before I do so, I beg your pardon. On this particular subject, we've got three options. We can take the action the petition requests. We can not take the action requested for reasons put forward in the debate that's about to happen. And we could, the third alternative is to commission further investigation into the matter, for example, by a relevant committee. Thank you very much. Councillor Jay, you wish to speak?
Yes, please. Firstly, thanks very much, Councillor Kingston, for putting the petition together and bringing it here. And thank you to every single one of the residents who signed it. This is a fantastic thing with our democracy, that this is available to people to put petitions forward. So thank you for that. I've obviously got here a million statistics that I could read out to you. As you mentioned earlier, they were given before. You know, over 8,000 telephone calls have been dealt with. There's been over 1,000, I won't list them all out, but there's been over 1,000 face-to-face visits where officers have gone to people's homes. So that, you know, arguably that is better for vulnerable people. You talked about the information centre, the assembly rooms, people going in there. We've had just short of 250 face-to-face visits in there. I think the petition referred to not having a private room. There is a private room, so for example, even I think it was last week, there was a homelessness issue. They used the green room at the back, for example. If that's being used, they go to the Philip Dick Centre, for example. So there are private rooms. However, it's not in the same model it was delivered before, so I'll give you that. Here at Marmion House, on the road at Marmion House, for several years before COVID, officers weren't available immediately. It was by appointment, and so that hasn't changed. That bit's still there. However, in June this year, after we formed the new sort of administration for the year, we announced publicly priorities for the year, as I hope everyone will have seen. In there was the front desk, so exactly the reason for this petition, and also was Marmion House. So they were listed in our priorities. Now, we're only a few months in. Those priorities are for the municipal year. So some things we have been doing. Firstly, there's better signage up at the assembly rooms and at Marmion House. That was a very simple one to try and show people where it is. Like you mentioned, we've started the pop-up engagement hubs. They're not ideal. They're at a set time on a certain day for a certain reason. But the idea is to collect data and try and work out where improvements can be made. So you mentioned the lady who attended the first one, and I was really pleased that she did find a solution. But I agree with you that she shouldn't have had to have come to that to find a solution. So that's the kind of thing we can take away and learn from. The second one was held today, which was well attended, and there's one each month until the end of the year. That will give us data and learnings to then work out what is the solution. Is it a front desk, or is it something else? We've also tasked officers to relook again, now in this different area, to look at Marmion House options. Again, that was one of our priorities. Obviously, there are many, many options considered in the past, which many people in this room voted on before. But are they right now? Things have changed since then. We've got more data and more information, so that's one other thing. Regarding processes, some of them work extremely well, and some of them, like you mentioned, there are difficulties. One thing those guys in Cabinet have been doing is mystery shopping, mystery shoppers, so calling certain services, working out if it's working or not, and chasing where it's not. So again, we're trying to do all these things to address the issues you mentioned. I would, however, say that given that we announced this as a priority in June, and we're now in September, and that's a municipal year priority, whilst important, it's premature in terms of the timeline we wanted to work to. We haven't got all the data yet. We haven't got all the options available yet. And if we just push forward with a motion tonight, in full council to reopen the front house at Marmion House, for example, there's a significant cost implication to that. We've seen what's happened recently in neighbouring councils. We don't want to go down that route. We're about to go into the budget process. So I think it's definitely important. We're definitely listening. That's why it's one of our priorities. But I think it's a bit premature today. So my idea would be to put a motion and hope for a seconder, which is that we bring back to the last full council of the municipal year the findings and learnings we've had from this year on what the future is for that service, and hope for a seconder.
Right, we're in debate at the moment. So would anyone else like to contribute? Councillor Dean.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just thinking about the options that you put forward, I really don't think we need any further investigation into this. There's overwhelming evidence that people want to see a front desk, that the facility is really needed, and some of the answers that Councillor Jay has given about the statistics in it, we probably need to be looking at the costs on those. Home visits, are they cost effective? Some of those surely would have been sorted out in a front desk situation. So I also wanted to bring in here the earlier comment about the police station. What we're looking for is a front desk. We want somewhere for the police and the council where people can go in and ask a question of people. I tried to ring the assembly rooms a couple of months ago. I wanted to hire the thing. Sorry.
Just ask you, Councillor J?
Yes. I didn't want to, but point of order, we're not here to discuss the police. It's the
Right,
front,
yeah,
come out,
I've finished
thanks.
on the police. Yeah, just that it's exactly the same issue. So I tried to call the assembly rooms to hire the facility, and the person who answered the phone couldn't give me any information. You know, if they can't even give the information about the facility that they're in, I don't have a lot of confidence about the other things that people are going in there to ask. The facility that we used to have at the council was fabulous. You could go in and be triaged, and somebody would come down from on high and would speak to you about whatever your problem is. I'd like to see, I know we probably can't have that anymore because we wouldn't have a venue that was of that size, but there should be somewhere you can go, be triaged and be speaking to the right person. So, yeah, once again, for me, it's about providing a service to the people who pay our council tax.
Thank you, Councillor Dean. Councillor Cook.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I struggle to remember, was it Mark Twain or Winston Churchill that famously said, statistics are like a drunken man leaning against a lamppost, there for support rather than illumination. It's easy to have the statistics. We've already proven this year, and Cabinet accepted recommendations that show our complaint scheme isn't fit for purpose. It is being worked on. So these statistics are backed up by a complaint system that we've proved isn't fit for purpose, which leads me to question the statistics. Now, I would like to correct a couple of things. Firstly, the Deputy Leader of the Council said before COVID, you had to meet an officer, you had to get an appointment. That's not entirely accurate. We trialled for many years, leading right up to 2019 and leading up to COVID, what we called first-time resolution, where a member of the housing team and a member of the planning team would sit in reception on a rota basis to see, rather than it going through the desk to the back office to come back through or make an appointment, could we address issues there and then? And we called it first-time resolution. We also called it red carpet regulation, as in how to get people the answer they needed quicker. So that's not entirely true that this didn't happen, it did. What we need to remember is we moved reception to the assembly rooms as a temporary measure during COVID. It was never meant to last this long. And when I authorised that to happen during COVID, I'd have been appalled with myself at the time if we'd still been talking about it in 2023. This is not fit for purpose. It was never supposed to be a long-term solution. As part of Reset and Recovery, it was agreed that the council would look to secure a building, whether we rent, own or build, a building in the town centre to offer a front desk proper service. That was from motions of this council. And it's kind of been kicked down the road, kicked down the road, kicked down the road. Then levelling up funding came along, where we decided to put in a bid as a council for a new council building. And then we were absolutely flabbergasted when the government weren't excited by that. It was never going to change, so we kicked it down the road again. It's time to stop kicking it. The people of Tamworth deserve somewhere to go. Now, I've, for a long time, watched the budgets of this council push us towards, online portals and how do people use the internet more. And that's not about helping people, it's about saving this council money. We all fundamentally understand that. People deserve a place they can go and speak to an individual. That's how the world functions. And I'm happy to bring the police into this, Mr. Mayor. I'm happy to bring mental health services into this. I'm happy to bring the county council into this question, because what's wrong with a one-stop shop for all local government offers? Why does it just have to be about Tamworth Borough Council? We should have a place people can go in Tamworth to ask any question, whether it's about mental health, roads, county council services, education, and be pointed in the right direction by an individual. It's time to stop talking about it. It's time to stop digging up stats that we've been talking about for 5 years, and it's time to get some action on this matter, and it's time to actually instruct our officers to get a reception open in Tamworth within the next 6 months. I'm not going to move that as a motion yet, Mr. Mayor, because we're debating Councillor Jay's motion at the minute. However, I can't support Councillor Jay's motion because we're kicking the can another year, which will then form a committee, which will then form something else. And we'll be talking about this in 3 years' time. This council needs to be decisive right now on Councillor Kingston's petition, and let's get some action in motion. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Cook. Councillor Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not going to stand here and say that everything that we've put in place since COVID has been tickety-boo, bob on. That would be remiss of me. I have seen instances myself where people have struggled with council services and support. However, I do have to raise the fact that I feel as though the debate is assuming that there isn't things already in place, as Councillor Jay has put forward. Just today, after doing a corporate charity day event up the Tamworth Castle, I walked past the fantastic town hall to see people in here speaking to council officers, getting the triage that you've mentioned in your response, getting that face-to-face appointment in place. So we are doing things. We have listened to the criticisms in May, and we have adapted our approach. I feel as though that there is some recognition that we can't go back to a fully fledged reception desk. I say we keep the pop-up sessions in place. I think that they're working. You know, the stats say that, and to come back to the stats issue, we make decisions based on statistics. That is fundamentally what we do. We speak to people, but we look to statistics to make decisions. And that is, I implore you to do that, because you know what happens when we do that? We cut through populism, and we cut through opinion, and we get to fact. And that is how leaders make decisions based on facts. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cooper. Councillor Daniels.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Some really interesting points I feel have been raised already this evening. The work that's been going on by the Cabinet, thank you, to think about this issue. Some interesting responses just given by Councillor Cooper about the importance of statistics and using that in research. But as I know he'll be aware that all research is based both on quantitative and qualitative data. And so I'd like to extend a warm welcome in our audience to former Councillor Margaret Clark, Sir Optimist, and someone who is responsible for an establishment within the town centre at the time when we have not had a front desk, where I know you have reported people visiting you with council-based questions, even though the establishment itself is about our heritage and our tourism. So I just employ as part of your research to make sure the voices are heard about services that have been offered when perhaps as a council we've not been able to. Thank you, Councillor Jay.
Thank you, Councillor Daniels. Councillor Woodrup.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. We've also got to remember not everybody's tech savvy. I've visited quite a few residents, and they said that they can't get through. Last night I went to visit somebody, and she's lost her husband recently. She's been trying to get through. She got through to a couple of council staff that was really helpful, but even they was having difficulty passing the calls through or getting hold of somebody else by telephone. I've got the details and I am going to pass those on, so I'm not just saying it off the top of my head. I have got the evidence of her and the dates and the times what she's tried. And a front-facing service is required alongside home visits, because home visits are very, very important, because not everybody wants to come out and talk in, whether it's in a closed room or an open room. They don't, it's the waiting. So, and I know people do welcome home visits. I know, because in my own role, when I've been in my substantive post at work, home visits are really welcomed, and you actually can get more out of somebody, the residents, because they're in the comfort of their own home and they feel comfortable talking to you about the issues that they've got because they're in their own surroundings. And you can also, on a home visit, you can pick up if there's any other issues going on. You sometimes get a bit of a feeling and draw things out. So I think they're very important. And also the data needs to be very robust, as Sarah said, quantitative and qualitative. If you're having the same date and time every month, how are you going to measure that by different? It needs to be varied over the times to get that data, because as my colleague here, Councillor Kingston, said, people work and not everybody can get there between 10 and 2, for example. So it's just, I'm not saying that people need to get, be there 24 hours a day on a face-to-face service, but we do need to make sure that that happens. And also, when people are visiting, is there, could you have a little laptop or a little tab where people do a comment, how did you find your visit? Like it's just something simple like that will also help with the data when we're going through looking at whether the front desk needs to be opened and getting people's comments, compliments and getting the comments. So I think it is really important. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Woodrup. Right, I'm afraid we've crashed through the 15 minutes allocation. So we have to make a decision on this, what we're going to do. And we have a motion that has been put forward by Councillor Che. Councillor J, could I ask you to repeat your motion?
Sure. If I can remember exactly what I said, but basically that we bring back to the final full council of the municipal year the investigation and the options for this service for decision.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Cooper. Right, we now move on to a vote. Oh, I beg your pardon, sorry. Questions. Please forgive me. Anyone with a question? Oh, Councillor Kingston.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can I just clarify, with your recommendation, Councillor J, are you going to, if it indeed is passed, if it comes to fruition that you present this report with data and so forth in at the final municipal meeting, which I think will form in March time-ish from memory, are you actually, if the data shows that a return to a front desk is warranted, then that will be a recommendation in the report?
Councillor J.
If everything points to that being an option, yeah, any option that's on the table will come back, yeah. If that's what it points to, we don't know yet. Can I... Go on, don't worry.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to ask a question? Councillor Cook.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To follow on Councillor Kingston, can we therefore write it into your recommendation that if the data points that way, we do it?
Councillor J.
Well, again, we might be shackling ourselves with that. It depends on, it's not just the data, right? It depends on what I mean. The option could be bring back a front desk. That's going to cost whatever X hundred thousands of pound. Is it, that will be part of it. It's not just the data, it'll be the financials, it'll be the impact, it'll be all of that. So it's all got to be considered together.
Thank you. Right. Anyone else?
My question is to you, Mr. Mayor. Am I able to answer any of the points from earlier? Or is
absolutely. Go ahead.
Can I answer any of the points that came up earlier?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, a couple of points that came up earlier. I just want to refer, so there was over 1,000 home visits. So we talked earlier about, I think it's Councillor Dean mentioned that those people would, people would prefer to have a visit here at the front desk, but Mum and House, the front desk. I keep saying here, it's Mum and House. It's subjective. The 1,000 odd people who had a home visit, if we ask them, they might say that they preferred the home visit. Yeah, we don't know that. The 250 people that came through the assembly rooms door might say the opposite. So that's why I think we just need a bit more time to properly understand that. We could have our own view based on people we've spoken to. I could speak to 10 people tomorrow, and those 10 people could say they love having a home visit, and that would be my view, formed by 10 people. Someone else here could speak to others, form theirs the opposite. So we need to be careful. Regarding the complaint system, it has massively improved. There was a report only last month on that, so it has massively improved. Councillor Dean, my answer to what you said earlier is if you found an issue, or you've tried to call the assembly rooms, complain. Every single person here, every single person in Tamworth, if you've had an issue, complain. That goes into data, and things can be learnt from it. So don't sit at home and think that was a poor service. Complain about it. Right? That's how organisations learn. So I'd encourage that. Councillor Cook mentioned data-only support. Well, yes, it absolutely does. But we need to base it on something. We can't just base it on our own feeling. We need to base it on data, qualitative and quantitative. The pop-ups about the days and times, some of them will be at weekends. Okay, so they're not all weekday, midday. Some of them will be at weekend. So it has tried to be varied for the exact reason you mentioned. And we're not kicking anything down the road. No one can accuse us of that. Month one, we publicly gave out our priorities. We're sticking to them. We're delivering on them. And we've had more meetings in the past 3 or 4 months than probably the past previous year. No one can say we're procrastinating on anything. But we're not going to be, I don't feel it's right to force us into a decision right now until we've got all the data. It is an important issue. It is one of our priorities, so we're not saying no. We're just saying it's premature at this stage. Lots of options have been looked at or are being looked at. We've talked about, could you reformulate downstairs, having the town hall. We've talked about empty units in the town centre. We've talked about bids for a brand new office. We've talked about mime house. There's all sorts of options being looked at. It's too premature tonight, in my view. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jay. I think Councillor Cook was just before you, Councillor Dean.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was going to move an alternative motion, Mr. Mayor, but I don't know if you want to take the vote on this one first.
We'll do this one first.
Okay. Can I just make one quick point of order, though, please, Mr. Mayor, just while I'm stood, with your indulgence? I've spent the last year and a half battering members of this council about an evidence base using statistics to set the council's vision, and I was told it wasn't important. I've been told tonight leaders use statistics, leaders use data, but they won't realign their vision to the statistics and data available. Amazing lack of leadership. Thank you for confirming that.
Up. Okay. Councillor Dean.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to clarify that I'm not saying it's one or the other. My point about home visits was, did we need them all? And is that a cost-effective way of doing it? Yes, of course. It's always going to be, some people are going to need that. And for privacy and vulnerable people, yes, we need to do that. But we don't perhaps need to do quite as many. And are we only doing them because we haven't got a facility somewhere else?
Councillor Summers.
Mr. Mayor, can I just clarify whether Councillor Dean is proposing we make the service we currently give worse?
You don't wish to respond, no.
I'm just looking at value for money and doing things in the best possible way. And some people might think that coming in to see their council officers is a good way of doing things and wouldn't want to put a burden on to our tax budget.
Thank you. Right. Does that conclude the questions? Oh, Councillor Summers.
Yeah, can I just ask the leader, does he really think that 1,312 signatures is overwhelming evidence, considering the petitioner has about 2,000 people on his Facebook page that couldn't manage to sign it?
You don't wish to, or do you?
Happy to come back. I mean, I wouldn't say overwhelming, but I don't want to discredit the people that have done it. They've taken the time to sign it. But that forms part of everything that we need to review, including what Councillor Dean mentioned there. Are the home visits the right way? We've got to review all of that together and then work out the options. Simple as that. So those people that signed it, absolutely credit to them. That's part of it. But we need to look at everything in and around.
Right. Okay, everyone. Well, we have a motion on the table from Councillor Jay that we bring back the findings at a future municipal meeting, at the last meeting. And do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Cooper? Right, we'll take a vote. All those in favour? All those against?
I can't quite see.
Could you all stick your hands up? It's very hard for us to count them from up here. Right, we have a result, and the result is 11 for and 10 against. So that motion is passed. Right, we now move on to item 7, which is the annual report of the Treasury Management Service and actual prudential indicators. And I shall now once again hand over to Councillor Thomas J to explain this.
Thank you very much. This is an annual report. As you mentioned, it's been here many times before. The purpose is a requirement of the Council's reporting procedures. It covers the Treasury activity for 2022-23 and the prudential indicators for the same year. The report meets the requirements of both the CIPFA Code of Practice on Treasury Management and the Prudential Code for Capital Finance and Local Authorities. The Council is required to comply with both codes in accordance with regulations issued under the Local Government Act 2003, and it provides an opportunity to review the approved Treasury Management Strategy for the current year and enables members to consider and approve any issues identified that require amendment. So recommendations are that Council approve the actual 2022-23 Prudential and Treasury indicators within the report and shown in Appendix 1, and accept the annual Treasury Management Report for 2022-23. The Treasury functions achieved some favourable results. The Council has applied with the codes, statutes and guidance. No issues to report regarding non-compliance with the approved indicators. The Council has maintained an average investment balance externally invested of 75.8 million with an average return of 2.16, which is well above the budget of 37.3 and an average return of 0.25. The closed weighting average internal rate on borrowing is 4.05, which was as per the previous year. The Treasury Management function has achieved an outturn investment income of 1.6 million compared to the budget of £121,000, so again a positive result. We received 458,000 in dividends from our property fund investments against a budget of 269,000, so again positive. So that's just some highlights, and I move those questions.
Thank you, Councillor. Right, questions. Does anyone want to ask a question? Councillor Cook.
I'm second to the right.
Okay, we've had a second. And no other questions or debate? No. Okay. We'll move straight on to the vote. All those in favour? Anyone against? Any abstentions? Okay, that's passed. Right. Well, we've got through it all, ladies and gentlemen, and it's all gone pretty well, I would suspect. And it's time now to close the meeting at 22 minutes to 8, is that? 1938. There we go. Thank you all for attending, and thank you to everybody. Thank you to our visitors, and thank you for everyone watching on YouTube. Good night, and those of you here, have a safe journey home. Good night.